Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Thursday night, and you all know the drill by now. It's match preview evening, and I'm delighted to say this evening, ahead of our game on Saturday afternoon, I am joined by Lizzie Robinson, a Doncaster fan who, for more reasons than one, is very excited about this Saturday's fixture. Lizzie, first of all, thanks for coming on, and can you please fill us in on why Saturday is such a big game for you as a female football fan?
Right, yeah. Hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm one of the founding members of the Doncaster Rovers Women's Supporters Group. And if you've been on social media this week, you'll know that Tuesday was International Women's Day. And as a consequence, teams in the EFL and the Premier League are doing all sorts of exciting events in conjunction with her game too, which obviously is massive at the minute. To promote women in football, playing football, watching football, working in football, just breaking the biases, getting more people to games. We've been giving out discounted tickets to junior girls football teams. We've been giving out free tickets to people in the community. We've got loads of fun things happening in and around the stadium. You'll definitely see me like posing for photos with Gillingham and Rovers fans alike. And it'll just be nice to hopefully get the keep out full, the Eco Power full, for what is basically a cup final for both of our teams. Really, it's a massive game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not been the greatest of campaigns for either. Let's not be on try and dress it up any other way. I just wanted to ask you. You mentioned her game too and everything that they've done over the last 10 months, and like you say, it's gone absolutely crazy in less than a year, which is brilliant to see. One of my daughters likes football. I'd like her to come to more games, but generally that'd be easier to persuade her if we weren't so crap.
Yeah.
But in terms of your own personal experiences, before we get into the game, have you had anything that you'd label, a bad experience? Or
I find in person at Doncaster Rovers, it's a really welcoming environment.
Mm-hmm.
My dad has always dragged me to games since I was in like a pushchair. I mean, you might call it child abuse in some environments, but it's not done me too badly. Always sort of made me go to games, and you get the odd sort of, more like you get when you're walking down the street as a woman, people looking you up and down or shouting or, wolf whistling or whatever. It's social media I found more of an issue with in my time as a Rovers fan. I'm quite gobby on Twitter. I've got a lot of opinions, and I find that I have to justify my opinions twice as much as any man ever would. Do you know, if you have to I have to say, like, when things were happening with Richie Wellens at the beginning of the season, I would be like, I don't like him. But just to clarify, I've been going since I was this old. I've been to this many games. I've missed this many games this season. If you're a man, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, so you shouldn't have to justify yourself. You're a Doncaster Rovers fan, regardless of whether you're male or female.
Or a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
But
no, totally
unfortunately,
agree.
because people regard it as a man's game in some aspects of, this country and the world, you find yourself having to kind of compensate more and explain yourself more than you probably would do if you were a man, and then people are always surprised that you actually know what you're talking about, which is frustrating. But then on the flip side of it, it's also about people who have got daughters or mothers with sons who feel like they can't go to a football game because they don't know if it's safe. And Doncaster Rovers is a brilliant family club, and I'm proud to say that, if you're going to come here with your kids, you're probably going to have a really nice time, and you're going to get more bums on seats, and you might have some potential season ticket holders at the end of it. So for me, the Her Game 2 thing, it's only beneficial from a club perspective as well as from a, eradicating the patriarchy perspective, I guess. So it's certainly got its benefits on all sides of things. Yeah.
Also, do you think as well that, and because you mentioned about people coming with their kids, and you say mums coming with their kids, and is it safe? But the thing that I find ironic, especially with social media, and this happens just as a bloke as well, because we all have disagreements as football fans, and you'll have an opinion or a disagreement with someone on social media, and you always get the odd one that wants to go over and above and wants to, get insulting and be petty, and then you see them at the ground, they look at the floor.
Oh yeah.
Do you have the same sort of thing? Is that it comes because it's easy to hide behind a keyboard, isn't it? That's the trouble with social media. It's so easy. You don't have to put your profile picture up. I mean, I do a channel, so at the end of the day, I put myself out there on a very small scale. I get that.
No, I'm the same though.
You do become an easy target. I know that Dapper, who does Doncaster videos as well, he's been targeted in recent months.
Well, I just get it because I'm his mate.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's just Neanderthal behaviour at the end of the day, because we're all doing it because we enjoy football.
We've all got the
We
same
can all
hobby,
have
haven't
different
we?
opinions, can't we? Without having to resort to being nasty or having an opinion
And I
because
think that's the
someone's a
beauty of,
female.
I think that's the beauty of this, the women's supporters group forming really, is I've met so many more people in person and you just feel a bit more confident, like kind of, because I'd never been to a game on my own until this season.
Hmm.
Because I would always go with my dad, but as he's not getting any younger, don't tell him. But I've been to a few games on my own for the first time ever. And now, because of the women's group, I've met men and women that I didn't know before.
Mhm.
And you just feel a bit, more secure in that people aren't going to shout at you because you don't like a certain player or because you do like a player, which is normally my problem. I'm quite positive. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? This age of social media, but relatively in person, you don't get any trouble with Doncaster fans. Most of them don't go.
Well, that's good. Anyway, right. Her game too, and Doncaster Women's Supporters Club aside, there is, like you've already mentioned, a massive game Saturday, 3 p.m. It is effectively a 6-pointer, probably a 12-pointer,
Yeah.
a cup final, as you described it. I'm not going to imagine it's going to be first on the highlights by any stretch of the imagination, but looking at recent form for both teams, all right in recent games over the last 6. Doncaster have picked up 2 wins, a draw, and 3 defeats in their last 6. So it's 7 points from 18 available, which in isolation isn't awful form. Gills have picked
No.
up 8 points over the same period. So that's a pair of wins, pair of draws, and a pair of defeats. And again, not bad form. But such as our situations, we need to start winning games and we need to start winning them quickly. I then broke it down a little bit further into home and away form.
Yeah. Oh God.
It's not great for either, again, is it? It's not pointing towards a thriller. Doncaster, it's 1 win and 5 defeats at home in the last 6, but you have played some good sides, to be fair. I think you played Wigan and Rotherham in that period and a couple of
Wednesday
others.
as well.
MK Dons, oh no, you beat MK Dons, didn't you? So
Yeah, but that was way back in October. We had Wednesday, Rotherham and Wigan all since the turn of the year.
you've
All
had
massive.
teams that are right up there that are going to
Yeah,
be in the
yeah.
promotion mix. Gills, slightly
Plymouth as
better. It's
well.
5 points from 18, and that's
God.
single win, 2 draws, and 3 defeats.
Yeah.
I noticed your first win since December the 11th was the recent win over Accrington, which I think was 2-0.
Yeah. We looked a good team.
They're a decent side, Accrington. So again,
They
it comes
normally
back
do one on us. They normally beat us. They're a bit of a bogey team for us, actually. We seem to be beating quite a lot of our bogey teams this season. Sunderland as well, another team we've never beaten in our history in the league, and we managed to beat them at a Stadium of Light. So it's our form is so weird at the minute, like because the games that we shouldn't be winning, we seem to be winning, and then the games that we really ought to do well in, we get hammered 4-0 like we did at Cheltenham. So
that
it's
seems to be a theme I've had of talking to fans of teams that are in relegation trouble. I had a Lincoln fan on the other week, and she said exactly the same. They'd go to teams in the top 6, top 8, and beat them, and then teams around them they've really struggled, and it's cost them, and that's why they've ended up struggling.
yeah,
There
I
are
think
a
that's
few.
probably one of our issues, one of many.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than just that for both of us, isn't it? We're not, 22nd and 23rd just because of we're good against the top 6 and not so good against the rest. There's far more deep lying issues, I'd imagine, in both football clubs, but we've probably not got time to discuss all of that this evening.
No.
Noticed again in recent games, you played a few teams that we've played recently as well. You drew 2-2 with Wimbledon recently. We drew 0-0 with them, so both took a point. You've beaten Lincoln, who we beat 2-0. You lost 1-0 to Ipswich. We've lost to them since Neil Harris took over.
Yeah.
You've kept 2 clean sheets in your last 6 as well, which again, for a team that's struggling, is not bad. But then, unfortunately, in the other games, you've conceded at least twice. So,
Yeah.
is that another sort of Jekyll and Hyde thing that's going to make you you're almost guessing which Doncaster's going to turn up defensively come Saturday or Tuesday?
Defensively, no, I think it's pretty much been consistently the worst one. I mean, we've conceded the most goals in the EFL, so that kind of stat doesn't appear just out of nowhere. It's just the defending is so sloppy, silly mistakes, set pieces. Yeah, it's just I can't imagine it ending in 0 on Saturday. To be quite honest with you, I do think we do tend to concede very sloppy goals and then collapse. That's kind of been our main problem, really. Once we concede 1, we concede 4, 5, 6. So
I can't see that against us. We've not scored more than twice in a league game all season.
well, we did break Charlton's losing streak as well earlier in the season. They'd not won at the Valley, did they? And then they beat us 4-0. So we've got a bit of a record of being responsible for the resurgences of certain teams this season. So
Oh,
it'll
we've
be,
been there plenty of times. We used to use the term as Gills fans, generous Gills, a team would turn up that had not won for about 500 years and they'd turn us over, like you say, or a striker hadn't scored for months and months, they'd get a hat-trick or something like that. It changed under
yeah,
Steve Evans, who we should not talk about because I know you're a
yeah.
massive fan,
Thanks.
but obviously it's come back slightly this season for a number of reasons. We had lots of injuries in the first half of the campaign, but I've said
Yeah.
plenty of times, if you get relegated, they don't put that on the league table. You get relegated, you get relegated. It's not but.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same for us. It's exactly the same for us. You can't blame injuries. There's a lot more wrong than just injuries, unfortunately. But
That's it. No, totally agree. And it doesn't have a little star next to the table at the end of the season that says, bless them, they had loads of injury problems. It just says relegated. So we have to just crack on and get on with it. Defensively,
Exactly.
though, for positives for Gills fans watching, we've kept 4 clean sheets in 8 games since Neil Harris took over, which is absolutely astonishing considering we'd conceded 7 in 90 minutes the game before he took over. And we are generally, without trying to get too positive from a Gills perspective, because you've said you're not great against teams in and around you. Since Neil Harris took over, we've beaten Crewe, drawn at Morecambe, drawn with Wimbledon, and won at Lincoln. So we've been very good against them sides in the same portion of the table, unbeaten in 4. But I want to talk more about Doncaster specifically. Obviously, Richie Wellens came in at the start of the season. I think it's fair to say, decent reputation as a lower league manager. Had been very good at Swindon. I think it was Oldham previously done all right there as well.
Salford as
why,
well.
Salford as well, yeah, albeit you get back there. Why did it just go so horrendously wrong
Well,
for him at Doncaster?
I think there's a bit of a misapprehension to say that his success at Swindon was the most amazing success ever. I mean, it was the season that ended in March. There's still 2 months of the season to go. You wonder whether they would have got them promoted if he'd had more time. You don't know, do you? It's kind of, it was all based on averages and stuff. So yeah, he won league, but like it's the same way that he won the EFL trophy with Salford. Like it's by proxy because of COVID, I think, and a little bit. I liked Richie Wellens as a player, obviously, because he was a massive ex-Rovers legend, one of the best we had when we were properly good in the Championship. But I think the way he goes about things in terms of his man management and his attitude in the press and just his overall professionalism were just, they weren't befitting of Doncaster Rovers. We are not the kind of club that sends players to train with the under-18s because they miss a penalty against Sheffield Wednesday for months on end when we've not got any fit strikers. Just you've got, we did that with Omar Bogle. I'm not sure how much you keep an eye on it. That was an interesting choice. His man management was awful. He would just come out in the press and just slaughter individuals by name. We had Newcastle in pre-season and Lewis Jones, who was our homegrown goalkeeper, started and letting a bit of a howler, and you could just hear him hurling abuse at him. It's just not really what I like to see in a manager. I like somebody to be a bit more, especially when we've got a young team, a bit more sort of uplifting and a bit more positive. And I just don't think it worked for that reason. A lot of excuses. Yeah, we had injured players, but as you say, he spent a lot of our transfer budget on 1 or 2 players, and then the rest which weren't really good enough for League One. So, Tommy Rowe came in, which was brilliant, but then, the rest of the midfield we brought in weren't as good, and you sort of left with a team that wasn't balanced correctly and also was not motivated because they were getting hounded and hung out to dry in the press every week. So I think it's just a bit of a combination of those things, and also the style of football we were playing. I couldn't tell you how that team played or how it was supposed to play, if you know what I mean. Like, it didn't feel like there was a style of football like there was when we had Darren Moore. You know how Darren Moore's going to play. Players out from the back, quick, young, attacking players, creativity in midfield. Grant McCann was a bit more physical, a bit more direct, attacking, with wing backs and stuff. Darren Ferguson, your back 5. You know how those managers are going to play football. Didn't have that with Richie Wellens. They felt like there was no game plan, and they just weren't fit enough either. It just a rubbish start to the season. But I think that's what happens when you look at Ole at Man United. Sometimes you appoint a club legend and it's just a disaster, and it ruins your opinions of them as a player. So yeah, I just don't think it was a great appointment. Not
No,
sure you
it's,
can. I'm
it's,
not
it's
sure if you can
interesting
tell.
listening because it sounds similar to, because obviously we had a lot of fans that didn't even come to games all the time that Steve Evans was in charge. They
Well,
just
I wouldn't
refused to
do if
set
he
foot in
was
the
at
stadium,
Rovers. I
which is
wouldn't if he
fine, and
came
I
to Rovers. I
understand that,
would not.
and I get that. We all have our own opinions on things. I still carried on going because my love for Gillingham outweighed my thoughts on what Steve Evans
Yeah,
previously had done, which is, it's by the by, and I get that, and people disagree with me. You might disagree with me, but
yeah.
um,
I'm not sure what I'd do really. I say I would, but it's hard to tell, isn't it? Unless you're in that
it is, because
situation.
then you're not actually put in that position where you actually have to think, oh, I might not be able to go for 2 years, which is effectively what it was for some fans. And like I say, I'm never going to sit here and berate a Gillingham supporter that decided to do that. That's entirely their choice, and good luck to them. But would it be fair to say then that Gary McSheffrey's completely the opposite? Because that's what we're seeing with Neil Harris. He's coming and he's a completely different manager to Steve Evans. Steve Evans sounds like similar to Wellens, probably on a bigger
Yeah, old
scale,
school.
screaming, shouting, hanging them out to
Yeah,
dry in the press, like you say. Whereas Harris has come in, he'll say what he needs to say. He'll say we weren't good enough. We weren't good enough against Bolton last week. He's come out and said that in the press, but he'll still say generally the players are working hard. They're still putting everything in. They've been brilliant for me. Is McSheffrey similar to that sort of
I
mode?
think McSheffrey is honest in the right way, and I'm sure that's how Harris is as well. But he'll go into the like at Rotherham, played them at the Keep Moat in January, and they absolutely battered us. It was awful. It was embarrassing. The formation was all wrong. We
Mm-hmm.
tried to stop them playing rather than playing ourselves, and McJeffrey just came out and said, "Yeah, it's my fault. That I shouldn't have done it like that. I'm still learning, and it's his first real job in management, and I'm I'm quite happy for him. I think he seems like a bit more of a calmer influence with Frank Sinclair, obviously as his assistant, doing a lot of the shouting and it's a lot more animated and sort of overly passionate. But I like they're quite a bit of a good cop, bad cop kind of situation. I think. I just I hope for McSheffrey that it works out. I hope they give him next season, even if we do go down, because I think there's potential. He's a very highly rated coach, especially at youth level. And he's a nice bloke, and he understands what Doncaster Rovers is. He's worked at this club since 2016. He can understand sort of what's good and what's bad about it, what needs changing. He just needs to be given a bit of time. I'm not sure if you saw the Class of '92 documentary that Wellens featured in over Christmas. Was it over Christmas? Where he just came across terribly at Salford, and it's pretty clear from the way McSheffrey talks about the early part of the season that that's definitely what it was like at Doncaster as well. And yeah, just we are playing considerably better. The players look more motivated. Heads aren't going down as much. I mean, they're still going down a bit, but not as much, if you know what I mean. Like baby steps in the right direction.
Oh, of course, yeah, it's what we've said, and even when Neil Harris come in, I mean, we've got the gap down to safety from 10 points to 3 points in 8 games, which is again is staggering. I've convinced myself about 4 times this season we're relegated, and I'll probably do
No,
it
me
again at
too.
least twice before the end of the season. But
Exactly the same as me.
he's come in, and it's interesting again what you say about good cop, bad cop with McSheffrey and Frank Sinclair, whereas Evans and Rayner, it tended to be bad cop, bad cop.
Bad cop and even worse cop. Don't even get me started on Rayner,
And
honestly.
now we've got Neil Harris. I'll quickly move on for your own sake and mine. Neil Harris is obviously the vocal one on the touchline, and we've got Dave Livermore, who was his assistant at Cardiff and Millwall as well, and I think they
Yeah,
were
yeah, yeah.
teammates as well. But he sort of just stands there staring. I don't think he even has to say anything. He just stands there, big bald head, arms folded. And I think it's a case of players just think, yeah, I don't really want to get on the wrong side of him. But I mean, I've not really heard much from Livermore in the press. I think he's done one interview after a regional cup game, but it's been Harris fronting up. And again, like you said, similarly to McSheffrey, he come out last week and he said levels weren't there against Bolton, the intensity weren't quite right. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe we overtrained them in the week because we had a full week and we've not had many of them since I've come in. So he's very
Yeah.
clever at deflecting attention away from the players, but still getting his point across and making them realise they've got
That's
to
what
be
being a
better than what
manager
they
is
put in.
about, though.
Yeah,
The
totally
man
agree.
management is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think Richie Wellens once came out and said that Aidan Barlow would put loads of weight on in the press. Like, you don't say things that tell it to him privately, perhaps, but not in the press. It's just inviting abuse to be aimed at people who don't, you're just trying to do a job. I'm just trying to, get there. But then obviously we're still not world beaters. I mean, somehow we've still got a chance of doing this, which if you'd asked me when Richie Wellens was still here before he got sacked, if we were going to still have a chance of staying up in the middle of March, I wouldn't have believed you. So there must be something going right, even though sometimes it's hard to believe when we get hammered 4-0 at Cheltenham or whatever, it's certainly an odd old season because we could still do it.
It's football, isn't it? It just keeps
Yeah,
dragging
mad.
you back in, and it comes back to that saying all the time, it's the hope that
Because
kills you.
we go, obviously, when we lost at Fleetwood and Morecambe in January, I was convinced that was it. That were curtains.
That was the
And
game
then
we
we
was
went
3-0
on.
up at half time, wasn't it?
Yeah, against Morecambe. Awful. But that's what I mean, though. It's just sometimes we just completely collapse. I don't know if it's because we're not fit enough or we're not mentally strong enough, but that team does seem to be. It appears every now and then the team that collapses, but then sometimes a team that does all right and grinds out a result appears. So it's all very strange at the moment, being a Donny fan, I must admit.
That's all guesswork, Gills fans, is what she's trying to say. We don't know which Donny's going to turn up at the weekend.
No, honestly, I don't know. It's an absolute. It's great. Makes me nervous.
Right. More immediately then, Saturday afternoon, we've done the general overview of previous managers, current managers, playing staff, people apparently being fat when they shouldn't be because they're professional footballers. Team news. What's the? Is there anything coming out of the Doncaster end at the moment in terms of anyone that potentially might be missing? Any key players or?
I'm not sure there's any that will be missing, but I think there might be some that might be on the way back. Tom Anderson was ill last week, but he trained. Ethan Galbraith, back in the throes of things now. He's a massive player for us on loan from Manchester United. John Bostock, another player who's very talented.
I read something about Tom Anderson being out today. Sorry to interrupt.
I know he was ill.
Bear me 2 seconds. I'm sure Dan tweeted. Here we go. Adam Oxley. Adam Oxley tweeted at 2:00. Gary McSheffrey confirms Tom Anderson has suffered a recurrence of a foot injury and is set to miss at least the next few weeks. Also confirms Ben Blythe is training with Swansea and will join the Welsh side in the summer.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can.
Sorry, is that breaking news for you?
Yeah, I've been at work. You can cut that out if you want. That would be nice.
That's fine. That's what it's like being live, isn't it? Just need a yellow ticker tape across the bottom.
Sorry. Well, either way, Bostock trained, definitely. And come on, Lizzie, do this. And obviously Galbraith is back as well, which is massive for us because we've really missed him. He's been back at Man United with sciatica for the last few weeks, and that little bit extra in midfield is certainly going to be useful. Obviously, Adam Clayton got sent off at Cheltenham, so he'll be missing. But other than that, a lot of the players I don't think that are injured, I don't think we'll see in a Rovers shirt again. Faye Okunabiri, Cameron John, I just can't see them ever really playing for
It's
us
weird
again,
you say that,
especially
obviously, because you
down.
know more from an inside perspective because you're a Doncaster fan, you're in and around it. But them two players, I remember watching them a couple of seasons ago and were decent players for you.
They're
John,
really good.
bless him, scored 2 own goals at the Priestfield, which really helped us out. Maybe that's
know.
why I like him. But I use a decent League One fullback.
No,
and
they're good players,
Kabiri,
but I just don't think they want to be involved in. I'm not sure they really want to be here. I think Okunabiri will go to Sheffield Wednesday because he likes Darren Moore, and Cameron John will go on to a bigger club as well if we get relegated. So it's not because they're not good enough; it's because they are good. And if we do get relegated, then they'll go on to pastures new. So I'm just not sure we'll see them again in that sense. Yeah, like in a good way. We don't tend to get rid of players that are rubbish. It's always the good ones we lose out on.
Life of a lower league fan, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah, innit?
Right then, can you pick an 11 for Saturday, or are we just leaving it where we are?
I can pick an 11 if you'd like.
Go for it.
Okay, right. So we'll have Jonathan Mitchell in goal.
Mm-hmm.
Your back four will be the same. Noyle, Younger, Oliru, Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Your midfield will be the interesting one because I would suggest, with Adam Clayton being suspended, it will be Matt Smith, Dan Gardner, Ethan Galbraith, and then Tommy Rowe, Josh Martin, and Rio Griffiths up front. That would be my guess, but we'll have to see because we do seem to chop and change our team quite a lot. So we'll, especially after a 4-0 hammering last week. So who knows what'll happen? It will certainly be an interesting fixture for both of us. What about you?
Definitely. Like I say, Gills' press conference was done today on Twitter. So we're definitely without Alex McDonald and Danny Lloyd. They're both out all season with knee problems. Dan Phillips, 3-game ban. He decided to get sent off for the 3rd time this season last weekend. Which is a real shame. He's a good player. We've got him on loan from Watford, but he's just not learning from his mistakes at the moment, unfortunately. All 3 red cards have been for 2 bookable offences. I think there's been dissent twice. Once was for fighting. And general naivety /
Yeah.
stupidity. So he won't be available for the next 3. So probably be a couple of changes because Mustafa Carriol got injured again after coming back after 3 weeks out. He pulled up with a hamstring problem, so he came off at half time last week. So I would imagine it'd be Aaron Chapman in goal. 3 centre backs will still be the same. It'll be Jack Tucker, Max Amar, and Connor Masterson. Wing backs, I'm sure, will still be Ryan Jackson and Robbie McKenzie. I'd imagine that Ollie Lee will come back into partner Stuart O'Keefe in the middle of midfield. And I think Ben Thompson will flank for Dane Oliver, and I think Ben Rees will come back into the 11 to replace Mustafa Carriol. The bench is effectively who's left because we do not have a big squad.
Yeah,
same. So it'd be potluck. Final question before I let you go, because I know you are off out to the cinema this evening. That dreaded score prediction.
I think
I've
you're
written
not going
mine
to
down,
like
so
it.
I'm not going to copy.
You're not going to
mine
like
either.
it. I think we will nick a 2-1 win.
I think we will nick a 2-1 win.
Well, probably just draw 1-1 knowing our luck.
Yeah, no good to either of us. And then we'll probably sit there and watch Morecambe and Fleetwood and Wimbledon all win as well, and Crewe.
Yeah, we've got Fleetwood week after as well.
So we've
2
got
cup
Charlton
finals in 2 weeks.
Charlton Tuesday, 2 biggest away games of the season, and I can't do either of them because I'm going to Cheltenham races next week, which has set me back quite a bit already. So I'm hoping. I was meant to go Lincoln 2 weeks ago, and then my missus said she had a day off, so I said I wouldn't go and we'd spend the day together. She got the flu, so I ended up watching it on Twitter and we won 2-0. So I'm hoping it's the same sort of principle for Saturday. Fingers crossed.
I've barely missed any games this season, so I'm certainly not a good omen in either, in the sense of going. Maybe I should give it a miss.
Yeah, that was the first win I've missed of ours. I mean, there's not many. It's not hard to miss a Gills win. There's only been 5 or 6 of them, similar to you. But whatever happens, I think if it's a draw, then we're both in trouble. But we shall see what happens. Anyway, again, Lizzie, thank you for coming on and joining me this evening. It's been brilliant fun. Really appreciate your time. I know you've got to go and get ready to go out. Gills fans, I will put Lizzie's description and Twitter details in the... Not Lizzie's description, Lizzie's Twitter details in the description at the bottom of the video. I will also post the social media links to the Doncaster Women's Supporters Club, her game too, and all that as well.
Yeah,
also,
brilliant.
go and check out Dapper. Dan, he does a lot of good stuff for Doncaster Rovers as well, so I'll put his link in there as well.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He is. No, he's really
my
good.
mate, so I feel like I have to say that.
Doesn't deserve the grief he's been getting recently as well. Comment down below. Let us know your teams, what you think the team would be, whether you're a Rovers fan, whether you're a Gills fan. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You know the drill. Like I say, unfortunately, we'll not be travelling on Saturday because of financial constraints, unfortunately. And I'll be wasting all my money on the horses next week. I'll be back Monday to look back on the game. Fingers crossed, it's a positive result for us. Fingers crossed Lizzie's depressed for the rest of the weekend. But enjoy your weekend, everybody. And until next time, up the Gills.